Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Educator Board Forum. Today we have a special guest, Tania. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Tania Laguna. I am a current counselor and I also serve as the liaison for undocumented students here on campus.
Thank you so much. What would you like to start with?
Um, so I think I'm going to talk about my educational trajectory, I guess. Um, so just a little bit about myself also to help you understand my educational background. I am undocumented. I'm currently under deferred action for childhood arrivals, which is DACA for short for DACA. Um, I moved to the States when I was 10 years old with my family. I actually moved with my mom and my siblings to reunite with my dad, who had already been in the States for 2 years. So we had been separated for those 2 previous years. So I knew from the get-go that I was undocumented, and that I was limited with some resources, but luckily, California. In high school, I was informed though that I could not go to college due to a lack of social security numbers. So that kind of determined my goals and my aspirations to go to college. So in high school, I just did, the bare minimum. I did have an honors class in as a freshman, and I decided to not continue with those honor classes because I saw no point. Because like I said, I was misinformed that I couldn't go to college. So I did the bare minimum. I passed my classes because I still had a good work in academic ethics. So it wasn't until my junior year in high school where some of my friends had already introduced me or informed me that, we could, as undocumented students, we could actually go to college and we could apply for something called AB 540, which would allow us to pay in-state tuition. So when that happened, again, it was towards the final semester of my junior year. I finished strong my classes, but again, I couldn't take the SATs due to no social security number. So I knew that the only option that I would have would be community college. So um, the summer of the year that I graduated, which was 2008, again, this was before DACA, this was before the California Dream Act, this was before um, license for undocumented individuals were approved in California. So, and also during the time where Bush was still the president, I was scared, not only about applying to college, but driving, right? Again, driving no license. I was really scared. So I remember that summer I drove up to a community college that was not too far from my house. And I had already done the application, but I was like, I need to apply for AB 540 because I knew that that would help me in saving a lot of money. Again, I had to pay out of my own pocket due to the lack of financial aid available for undocumented students at that point. So I knew the AB 540 was crucial. I didn't want to pay as a out-of-state student. So when I went to the Office of Admissions and Records, and I asked for an AB 540 form, and the individual that I was talking to told me that they didn't have that. And I was shocked because I was informed, and I had done my own research that this was a law that allowed undocumented students in all the state of California to apply for it and pay in-state tuition. So I had to be my own advocate, and I was like, I know you have one, so if you don't know what it is, can I talk to your supervisor? Again, the individual said, well, I've never heard of that form, so I don't think we have it on this campus. And I was like, okay, well, again, can I talk to your supervisor? And then it was a back and forth, like, oh, well, the supervisor's not here, he's on lunch, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, don't worry, I'm not in a rush. I have all day. So I'll wait here. And I waited there for I don't know, it seemed like hours, but it could have just been an hour or so. And this supervisor for this individual finally got there, and he didn't give me the AB 540 form. I already had my official high school transcripts because I knew that was one of the other requirements. So I submitted both forms, and that was that. So that was the first hiccup that I had at the community college. The next step was to take my assessment. So I had already scheduled an appointment for my assessment, which was to be the next day. So the next day I went in for my assessment, and to take an assessment, they do require a picture ID. At that point, I had no driver license, no California ID, and I had lost my high school ID, so I didn't have that. The only form of picture identification I had was my Mexican consulate or my matricula for Mexico, and that was the only ID that I had, so that was the one that I showed. When I went to the assessment, the individual who was in charge of the assessment center told me that I could not use that as a legal form of ID, and that I had to choose or show another picture ID in order for me to take my assessment result. And I was like, well, this is the only ID I have. And it is a California ID because although it is Mexico, it does have my California address. So it was a back and forth. She was hesitant that she was not going to allow me to take the assessment. And I said, well, can you talk to somebody else and see if they will let me? So it was a back and forth. One thing that was affecting my ability to take the assessment with my picture ID that I had was that when I applied, I had only used my first name and last name, which is Tania Laguna, but on my matricula and in Mexico and other countries, they use both last names. So on my ID, I had my other last name, which is my mom's maiden name, and they were not allowing me because the names didn't match. So I had to I had to go to admissions and records again, update my information, update my names, and then I had to reschedule another assessment to take for me to start applying for or registering for classes. So it was a frustrating experience. It was for me heartbreaking because not only was I outing myself as undocumented to these individuals, but the negativity that I got from them, it's like, oh no, you can't. So that affected me the way that I seeked out for help from other individuals because I didn't want to go through the same thing. So maybe I should have asked other people, maybe I should have continued knocking on doors, but those first few interactions really affected. Sorry, I get emotional. But those few interactions really affected the way that I continue my higher education. So I decided to, do it on my own because I felt like, the college that I was attending was not there to support me. Eventually, I graduated, transferred to Cal State San Bernardino, and I did not ask for help. Again, I didn't want to have the same bad interactions that I had before, so I continued doing my own work. At that time, again, there was no financial aid from document students, so I was working full-time, sometimes 40, 50 hours a week to pay for my tuition and my books, parking, and all that. Sorry. Oh, this is emotional. And it wasn't until my last year at Cal State San Bernardino that I finally got DACA. So that was an awesome thing because I had doubts throughout my educational journey. I kept thinking, why am I going to school? Why am I, working all these hours? Why am I, sacrificing all this time? If at the end of it, time, at the end of all this, I'm not going to be able to apply for a job. I'm not going to be able to have a career because I'm lacking a piece of paper. I'm lacking a social security number. So I did have some negative thoughts throughout that journey, but I try to, shush them away. Like, you know what? Yes, you don't have this thing that is preventing you from doing something in the future. But if something does happen, I want to be prepared. I want to be ready. I want to have my degree so that if something does happen, I am ready to apply for the job or for the career that I want. So as I mentioned, it did finally happen thanks to Obama's presidency. DACA was introduced and was approved, and I was able to apply for it and obtain the work permit and Social Security authorization, which allowed me to apply for additional jobs. So I was super excited. I was like, I am on the right track. I am graduating finally, and I have my work permit. I'm going to be able to apply for my dream job, which at that point was to be a probation officer. Again, my intention was never to be in higher ed. I've always dreamed of being in law enforcement, but specifically on probation, because I like the counseling aspect, and I thought that went well with the criminal justice and counseling probation. That was my dream job. So as soon as I graduated from Cal State San Bernardino, I started my application process to become a probation officer. And I took the first test online. I took the second test in person. I got through the interview questions, and then I was given a packet this big, which was to be filled out, and they were going to do a complete background check, not just on myself, but my whole family. Again, as an undocumented individual, although I already had DACA, my parents were not as lucky. They were still under their undocumented status, and that was a little bit intimidating that I had to include them in that package. And not only that, I was also informed that because I had told them that I had DACA, just to make sure that that was not an issue. Well, with that, they did inform me that I had to show proof of citizenship after a year hiring date. Now it's been it's been 9 years since I had DACA for the first time, and I still don't have citizenship. So I knew that was going to be impossible. I knew that was not going to be attainable. So I knew that even if I filled out that packet and I got that job, that citizenship requirement was still not going to be something that I can attain to keep my position as a probation officer. So I decided to not complete the packet and not continue with my application process, not only because I did not want to put my family through that intensive background check, but also because I knew that citizenship was not going to be something that I could attain within a year or two notice. So in the meantime, I was trying to figure out what other career path I wanted to follow. And at the same time, my younger sister, who had also graduated from high school at the same time that I graduated from college with my bachelor's, who's also undocumented, was applying to the same community college that I had just graduated a few years back. And it was shocking to see that she was still being confronted with the same problems that I had years prior to this. So it was really frustrating to see that when she went to ask for AB 540, they were still giving her a hard time, even though DACA was already in place, and even though the California DREAM Act was also active at that point. So I became very upset, and I said, I want to do something about this. I want to do something to help other undocumented students know that they're not alone and they have options. So again, I want to be a counselor with within the criminal justice system, but I'm like, why not be an academic counselor and help those students graduating from high school or going to college? So that's when I decided to get my master's in school counseling. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I did enrolled in a master's program with that intention to become a counselor, to give options, and not just for undocumented students, but everybody regardless of immigration status. So like, and again, maybe my counselor didn't know the opportunities that undocumented students had, but I was like, maybe, if I become a counselor, that was my thinking. If I become a counselor, maybe I can show others or tell others, whether it be students, counselors, principals, directors, anyone, that yes, undocumented students can and should be able to go to college regardless of their immigration status, and there is resources, or there are resources available for those undocumented students. So I waited. I didn't go straight into my master's program because, again, lack of residency or citizenship. I was not eligible for federal or government loans. So I knew that if I wanted to pay for graduate school, it would have to be private loans or, out of pocket, like I had done for my undergrad. So I waited about 2 years. I worked more hours, more time, different jobs to save money, enough money to pay for my graduate schools. And I ended up applying for my master's program with the University of Redlands for the fall of 2015. I also applied for a scholarship that they offered through the program through School of Education. I was also granted that scholarship, which was 20% tuition discount. And they also allowed me to apply for a graduate assistantship program, which allowed me to work on campus as a student worker and gain experience, but also get monetary compensation to help me pay for that tuition. So that's how I was able to afford my graduate studies, and I graduated summer 2017 with my master's in school counseling. Again, my goal was to work in education, whether that be K through 12 or community college, but because of all the struggles that I've had at my community college, I think that's what really inspired me and made me realize that my best fit would be at a community college. So I started applying, and I was lucky to find San Bernardino Valley College and find awesome people like Carmen Rodriguez and Sharaf Williams, who gave me an opportunity to work here. And when the position became available for a Dreamers Liaison, they thought about me because they see that the struggles that I went through and my desire to help undocumented students. So yeah, so that has been my journey. I started working here as a counselor summer 2019, and I've enjoyed it every time, and I like to be involved not just in the academic aspect, but also in the student activities, because I feel like I didn't get a chance to do that as an undergrad student due to my work and my full-time status. I just I didn't have the time, or I didn't make the time. So I really enjoy doing it now because I see that it really makes a difference when students get involved and they gain professional and development skills that maybe they never thought they needed, right? So yeah, that's my educational journey. And again, my intention was never to go into higher ed, but now that I am here, I love it and I enjoy working with and for students. Any questions? No, I don't know. Did I miss anything? Any questions?
Thank you so much for that. So we are, if anybody here in the chat has any questions, please leave them down below. Or you could speak up on the mic, whatever makes you all feel comfortable. But I do want to ask Tania one question. Since it seems like you've been doing counseling for quite some time here, obviously I think a good starter question would be like, what are some of your favorite moments of doing what you're doing right now? Because obviously you wanted to help people who were in the same position that you were in. So I wanted to ask, has there been any good moments that have derived from this?
Yeah, actually, that is a great question. So, I mean, I have many, but the one that comes to mind more is so students or dreamers who were brought here as kids or young, who graduated from high school, attended high school for 3 more years, and want to go to community college or 4-year universities, they're able to apply for in-state tuition through AB 540. But I'm going to include my parents or other dreamers, parents who came here older, who didn't go to high school here, who may want to take community college courses, but don't have the requirements to meet AB 540. They are not eligible for financial aid through the California Dream Act, or they're not eligible to apply to pay in-state tuition through AB 540. So that was always a heartbreak for me, because I would help a lot of students, but then the parents be like, hey, I want to take ESL courses, or you know what, I want to take HVAC classes, or I want to take machinist technology courses. Can you help me? And I'll be like, hey, yes, you can go to college, but you don't need a social security number. But if you don't meet these requirements, you would have to pay out of state tuition. And for one class, that's almost, well, for one single class, if it's a 3-unit, 4-unit class, someone who's out of state or doesn't meet the resident tuition requirements, they would have to pay up more than $1,000. So I'm like, this is not fair. Like, how can we help this parents, my parents? I would say my parents. How can I help others who may not have or may not meet those requirements to pay in-state tuition? So one thing that and we also, I also was informed that a professor on campus was trying to help a student who was undocumented, who didn't meet AB 540, and he really wanted to take some classes on campus. So like, we have to do something about this. We have to make it possible some way or somehow. So doing some research, I found out that there is actually an ed code in California that allows for undocumented students to pay in-state tuition, even if they don't meet the AB 540 requirements, as long as they're registered for 6 units or less. So I let my director know, Sharab Williams, and hey, Sharab, there's this ed code that we can implement on campus, and they would help a lot of our undocumented students who may not be eligible for AB 540 to still pay in-state tuition. And with her help, we were able to pass that ed code and get it implemented on our district. So this is a district implementation of the ed code, which allows, again, undocumented students to pay in-state tuition if they don't meet AB 540 requirements, as long as they register for 6 units or less on our campus. With that, implementation started summer 2021, so last semester. And the student who was really interested in reaching out a lot about the machinist courses that he really wanted to take was finally able to register for those classes and pay in-state tuition, because if he had registered for those classes before the implementation of this ed code, for one class, again, he would have paid more than $1,000. When he registered for that one class in the summer, he only paid $150, which is a big difference. So I think that is one of the happiest, really emotional again, that has been one of the happiest moments so far for me.
Absolutely amazing. Kind of just going back on that point, I feel like as if not enough people at least recognize a lot of the work that counselors have to do behind the scenes in order to ensure that students are have that availability, that the ability to just register and for classes even like at affordable cost, like how you mentioned. They would have been spending what, like over 1,000, and they paid basically a fraction of that. So I think it's important for at least us to know like how much work goes behind the scenes that people don't usually see, because usually people just see counselors, and it's not the same. People don't know what happens behind the scenes. So I just wanted to know like what goes on behind the scenes that most people, the general public, don't know about what happens.
In regards to what? Because there's a lot of different aspects. So,
oh, like just like in general, because like I said, you went out of your way to kind of just like research like certain things just to like kind of help out upcoming students. So I just want to say like generally like what in a typical day of like counselor, like what do you have to go through?
Awesome. Yes. So different items. So with ed codes and things like that, implementations that we want to get done on campus, it does take a whole process. This whole process of getting this ed code implemented, it took us about a year. Between meetings with the district, with the management, with IT, because we also want to make sure that the system is aware that when students register and they had selected that they have no social security numbers, that they will still be eligible for our in-state tuition if they register for 6 units. So it's a whole process that sometimes I'm not directly involved with, like meetings with the district or things like that. That's directly with my director. But it takes long, right? So it has to get approved by the board, it has to get approved by management, and if it does happen, we have to think about how it's going to be implemented, how it's going to work out, what departments need to be involved. So this would have to be, admissions and records, our department, the district, Crafton, because they're also part of our district, making sure that the people who need to know, so that they can also share that information. So yeah, just because we come up with ideas, right, that we want to get started, think that and don't get discouraged if they don't happen right away, because every good thing takes time, right? It's not going to come out of nowhere. It's not going to come out of thin air. It does take a process to make change happen, but good change always is worth it. So again, for the whole year, it's like, hey, let's push for it. Hey, what's going on? Hey, can we get the updates? Right now, we're also hoping to implement another part of the same ed code, which allows students to not only register for 6 units, but maybe if they wanted to enroll for more units, that they can do so. But because this is a different component of the ed code, there has to be a different form. So there's different items that we have to do for that. And we're still having to go through this process. So again, a lot of the time it's just having patience, right? Understanding that good work takes time. But when things work out, I mean, no matter how long it takes, it's always worth it, because the main goal is to serve and support and to benefit our students, right? Because we wouldn't be here if we didn't have students interested in our programs. Again, I work directly with Dreamers, with undocumented students. So if there were no undocumented students, this position would not be available. So also, every day to do. I mean, as a counselor, my favorite part is meeting with the students, getting to know them, getting to know their stories, their goals, their aspirations. That's my day-to-day life, but also planning events, planning ways where we can support more students, how or what are some of the things that, they may need that, maybe we hadn't thought about. So also, sending out surveys to see like, hey, like, what would you all like to see? Because again, I'm not doing this work because I want to do it. I'm doing it, well, I want to do it, but I'm doing this work for the main goal to serve the students, right? So I'm not going to do something that students don't need or may not want. I want to make sure that I also get their feedback and understand what their needs are, so we can at least, try to make that happen, or find resources which would support students in that way.
Okay, yeah, like I wanted to point out, like I think it's important for people to know like some of the background work that goes into it, and I love that how you're willing to share all that. You had mentioned that a lot of it is just like you mentioned patience, and a lot you mentioned like you, it's it's weird to see like just like how patient some of these counselors have to like they have to build that up. And so, and you say it takes up to like sometimes like even up to a year to implement some of these codes. So I just wanted to see like I'm pretty sure you love your job, and I just want to know like if there are like any like critiques of it. Like obviously like not every job is perfect, but like obviously is there like something you dislike about what you're doing, or anything you would like to see improved in any way, shape or form?
um I also don't want to throw people under the table. No, I'm just kidding. um I think, I mean, sometimes, and again, I hope you all don't take it the wrong way, but I get emails from students that want an answer right away, and students maybe don't realize or don't understand that I work with a number of students, and I also only work certain amount of hours a week. I don't work 24/7. So sometimes I do get students that get frustrated. Hey, like, I want to see you today at this hour where you were not in your office. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not working that day that you were there. There's, I wasn't there because I'm not scheduled to work. Like I can't, I can't make something happen that's out of my hands. Or, I think that would be the only thing that I would, I would just let students know, like, we're also human, right? The weekends I'll sometimes look at my emails, but sometimes I just want to relax and not worry about work till the next Monday comes up. And sometimes as students, and I remember being that way, like, oh, my professor didn't email or didn't reply to my email right away. And it's like I get, sometimes I get into my office and I have at least 60 emails pending, and I'm like, I'm trying to get to them as fast as I can. I'm sorry if I don't get there in a timely manner, but first come, first serve. So that would be my only thing that I would improve. I mean, just asking students to also have a little bit of patience with us, because again, we do serve a number of students, and if and I tell them, sometimes expect an answer within 24 to 48 hours. If I don't respond, please send me a reminder. Hey, can you please, I did send you an email. I won't take it as some bad note. I'll be like, oh man, sometimes, like I said, I'm human. Sometimes if I see an email and I don't reply right away, I'll be like, oh, I'll reply to it later. But then I may forget because something else happened or things like that. But just, I would just say that as much as I love students, sometimes, um, it could be challenging working with them. So again, hope y'all don't take it the wrong way, but I'm trying to be honest as I can be.
Y'all heard that first. Tania's calling y'all out. Don't be rude. I mean, I think that's just common sense. We're all humans. We're not robots. Developed by Elon Musk, prepared to work for 24 hours a day. Now we're all human. We do have a question in the chat. We are a club of aspiring educators. What's your advice for a student that wants to be a counselor?
Yeah, so I would strongly suggest that you get some experience, right? Because, and I'm not saying as a counselor, but working with the student population that you hope to work with. Because when I was in my master's program, it was a requirement. To work in K through 12, you have to get the certification called PPS credential to work in K through 12, and I did obtain that because I thought I wanted to work in high school or K through 12 system, and to work in a community college or higher education, all you would really need would be a master's. So I got the PPS credential because I thought I wanted to work in K through 12. But once I started doing my hours in K through 12, and I also, when I was in my master's program, I was also working as a substitute teacher. And I got experience working with kinder, with middle school, with high school students. And I realized that I actually did not want to work with those students. The little ones, I'm not really good with kids. I really never have been. And then high school students, I did enjoy it, but when I was in my master's program and I was doing my hours, people would always tell me, in order to work in high school, you have to have, K through your elementary and middle school experience first, and then move on to high school. Now we're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do the time in middle school or even elementary school. And again, because of the experience that I had in community college, I was like, I think community college is really where my calling is. So, if you want to be a counselor, find out, okay, what student population want to work with. Also get involved with professional associations. So, if you're something like the Student California Teachers Association, or once if you're starting your master's program, the California School Counselors Association, different associations as well. Get involved as much as you can, and understand that education, it's a good career, but if you're in it for the money, this may not be for you. If you want to be really someone who wants to support and help students, this is a great career for you. But if you're in it for the money, then I will suggest you go somewhere else, because you're not going to become a millionaire as a counselor. I mean, maybe you could if you have a side job or something like that, but keep your priorities on check, definitely. And then also do your research. So again, if you want to work in K through 12, you may want to go on EdJoin, look at what districts have on their job postings, so what requirements, what qualifications you would need, and start working on those. So, again, if you want to work in K through 12, but maybe you want to work at a specific district and they may require, they may require you to be a licensed behavioral counselor, then, that would be an additional requirement that you would have to complete in the master's program. And also, looking at the master's program, specifically looking at what requirements you would need for the position that you want, so that you select the master's program that would be best fit for you, right? Because not all programs have all specific components of being a school counselor. So again, if you want to be in K through 12, PPS, LC, or if you want to be a licensed counselor to work with students with their emotional and personal, or if you just want to be in higher ed. So be specifically thinking about the student population. If you want to have options, complete all of those requirements, be a licensed counselor, master, so you have more options as you graduate and start applying for jobs.
Okay. Well, we're almost out of time. So if anybody has any more questions, please feel free to, anybody in the audience, please feel free to reach out in the chat, or you can speak up. I do have one pretty much final question, is there anything for people who want to become a counselor, is there anything specific, things to avoid or take advantage of while pursuing this career path?
Yeah, so again, this is for anybody who wants to do graduate work. Make friends with your professors. Start networking from now. Don't wait till you're ready to graduate, because you never know which contact or which network may provide you with different opportunities later on. For when I was applying for my master's program, I was not as involved on campus. I was not really part in clubs or anything like that because of my time limitations. But when it came time to apply for graduate school for my master's program, you have to have letters of recommendation, and which it's best to have it from previous professors or people who oversee your work or oversee the things that you do. So definitely start from now. Don't wait till again the year before you graduate to start, going to professors' office hours or making connections with people who may, give you an opportunity later on. So that would be something that I would definitely recommend you all to start networking. Also use all the resources available to you. The Career Center, Writing Center, with your resume, if you need help with your resume, start, once, if you can do it here, or if once you transfer to a four-year university, use their transfer center, use their Career Center. They can help you with cover letter. I know I went to Cal State San Bernardino. I know they had a Career Center, and they also help with professional attire, because that's something that, I wasn't thinking about when I was going to school, right? I was just like, as long as I have my bachelor's degree, I'll get a job. And unfortunately, that's not the case. The degree doesn't come with the job automatically. You have to put yourself out there. And I graduated from Cal State San Bernardino 9 years ago, and I still have some classmates, from my undergrad that are still, hey, what are you doing? Like, I'm still, trying to get a job, but that's because they never put themselves out there. So start doing any type of internship, or if you can find a paid internship, or any job in the career that you're interested in working, right? Whether, for a group, it'd be education. So if you want to do that, maybe get a job as a tutor. If you want to be a teacher, maybe get a job as a teacher assistant, or but also start networking. So nowadays, everything's on social media. I know I had a LinkedIn, but I haven't been there on years. But also start, thinking about building your professional development, right? So all the conferences that you're attending through this association or any other that you're part of, all the things that you're doing at your club, don't forget to add them to your resume. Don't forget to add them to cover letters to your application that you're creating, because all this is great experience that's going to set you apart from other candidates as you start applying for jobs. And yeah, I think that that would be something that I would strongly recommend everybody to do as you start thinking about your career and your professional development once you leave college.
Okay, great stuff. I think that pretty much wraps up our educator board forum. Again, I would like to thank Tania for joining us here today. She took some time off of her busy schedule to join us and bless you all with some knowledge. So is there anything last words you want to say before we end this off?
Yes, so something that has helped me in my professional career, because when you start, or at least when I started, I was a little hesitant, right? There's always that, well, at least for me, that being afraid that I was not good enough, that imposter syndrome, right? That I was to do this job. But it's important to understand that you're going to start whatever you do, whether it's be a small project or a career, you're going to start probably knowing this much. But as you go on, you're going to build on that knowledge that you get, right? There's a saying that it says, and I always keep it with me, the expert in anything was once a beginner, right? So you may not be an expert when you get started, but don't doubt yourself, right? You will learn as you go, and don't be afraid to ask for help, whether that be from a coworker, your supervisor, right now your classmates. This job, it's a community, right? It starts from a community. So find the resources, always network, always, build your own support system, right? And surround yourself with individuals who may support you and have the same or similar goals to you, because sometimes negative people can also put us down and make ourselves doubt ourselves even more. But find others that support you, that encourage you, that show you love, and understand that you're not alone. I know you are building a community with SCTA, and you will continue building onto that community as you move on to the next stages in your professional, in your career, and your educational journey. But know that you're not alone. There's a community out there of people who are going through the same things, have gone through the same things, if not similar things that you are. And if they did it and I did it, you all can do it as well.
Thank you so much for that. You love to hear it here. Again, that wraps up our educator board forum with Tania. Again, round of applause for her. She did amazing, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you.
And you're all welcome to reach out to me anytime. I'm more than happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Have a great night.
You too.